In today's video, we are going to learn a very important idea that how to paralyze the knights with wing pawns. With these pawns. Oh, sorry. I'm going to show you just now. Yes, with these pawns. With A, B, G, and H. And I would especially highlight over here that these positions have been taken from techniques of positional play by Valeri Bronznik and Anatoli Kerekhin. And the concepts he has explained, I did not find in roundabout many books. This is really a best book for beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert level players, even master level players. This book is very important, and I would suggest you people to have this book. The further the way he explains, it is really beautiful. So we have a position in front of us. This game was played between Tamburini versus Botvinnik and in Leipzig, 1960. And here, sorry, Botvinnik versus Tamburini. And if you assess this position, for example, white, this pawn is threatened by the queen over here, black's queen. And white wants to activate his pieces. And you may see that these two rooks are controlling this f file. And here Botvinnik thought that I must have control over this square on e7 square, but this square is being controlled at present by the knight and by the rook. Sorry, by the rook, both of them. So from over here, the concept of paralyzing the knight arises. And how he went out with it, and the move was g3. The point of this g3 move is that, okay, you want to take my pawn, you may take it as you like. But in that instance, my attack and my position would be very much better than yours. Why black correctly assessed the position and he played the move rook d6 instead. Black takes over here, what happens? The problem is that now h4 immediately. If black tries to counter it by playing the move f6, but now the move is queen f5. And this actually happened in the game, but in a different manner where queen did not took this pawn. And now you see that how white's pieces immediately got active. So he went out for the move rook d6. And here you went out for your plan with h4. Remember, this is your plan in most of the versions. That how to paralyze your opponent's knights by the wing pawns. Especially, I want to highlight it over here by the wing pawns. So black played the move f6 over here, which was a mistake and a blunder. The point of this f6 move was that black does not want white's knight to come over here. But why this is a blunder? The point is that white is threatening to play the move h5. You have to counter that move. And the best move in this position was rook to f8. That whenever, for example, I'm going to show you that if rook f8, now white still plays this move. Now, black has this move, intermediate move first, rook f6. Queen has to move back. And now knight f8. Although white has given control of this square to the white, but instead he has also gained control of this half open file, f file, by his rook. And this rook is protecting this pawn, and white's pawn was already being threatened. So that was the best way. But in the game, he went out for the move f6, which loses immediately because now queen f5. The point of this queen f5 is that I am threatening this pawn also. Now I am controlling this diagonal also and this square also. The movement of this rook square, rook to e6. So black tries to swap the queens, and now h5. You are still going with your plan, h5. The knight has no good square over here, so it has to move back. It moved back, knight f8. Now rook e7, rook cd8. The point of this rook cd8 is that he want now black wants to exchange the white rook on 7th rank, but now knight f4. And here white has just a winning advantage. I hope you have understood the concept behind over here. When the knight is stuck over here and it has no good squares, and your pieces are controlling these squares. So we come back to our sorry, this example was between Botvinnik versus Poleslevsky in Moscow USSR Championship 1941. The second example is Tamburini versus Botvinnik, and here Botvinnik was playing black, and I'm going to switch the board. Do you remember the idea? You have a position in front of us. Your black's rook is on open file, but his bishop is very misplaced. And he came up with the plan. And the plan is same. This knight is being controlled over here. These two squares. White knight can't move to. Black can't move this knight over here. It will block this rook. Black's bishop is passive at present. Although this rook is good, this is controlling the 7th rank. And this is the threat, black's immediate threat. But what is the best way to activate this bishop? And here, Botvinnik came up with the same idea. I hope you people have guessed it, and that was h5. Now white played the move bishop f1. The point of this move bishop f1 was that he wants to bring his knight over here. But you would see that how pathetic these two pieces would be over here. Black played the move h4, knight ge2. And now you see that how to activate this bishop? Knight h5. Now you are controlling this square, very important square. These two squares are being controlled by this bishop. And your bishop has become opened. Here, actually, white made the blunder and he played the move knight f4, which loses on the spot. Just a little bit of tactics. I want you people to pause the video and think. It is why black to play and win. A small tactic, not a very difficult one. Just remember that this bishop is going to have no more squares to move to. And the tactic was knight into f4, bishop into f4. And now you are going to give the intermediate check first. Bishop d4 check. King has to move. King move here. Actually, black resigned. Tamburini resigned in this position. But I'm going to show you that what happens king h1 and now g5. And this bishop has no squares to go to. So I hope you have understood the concept. We are going to move to our next position. We have this position in front of us. And I want you people to pause and think. This with white Petrosian is playing, and with black Botvinnik is playing. I'm going to just flip the board for you people. It is Botvinnik's move. If you have understood the idea, this knight is controlling very important squares. Your rook is active, but the problem is that you want your bishop to be come over here, get active, and it would be better placed over here. The knight can then jump over here, and then to over here. But at present, this knight is controlling this square. And here, do you remember the plan? Same. First to play the move, g6. Here Petrosian played the move f6, and that was a mistake. The best move in this position was for him to develop the bishop. But he went out for the move f3. You are going with your same plan. h5. h5 was played in the game. Now bishop e2. Knight d7 first. This can wait. The reason is that Botvinnik waited for this move to play it h4, is that he does not know that where white is going to castle. Whether he is going to castle on this queen side, or whether he is going to castle on the king side. And he is asking white, actually Petrosian, to make a decision that where you are going to castle. And Petrosian played the move king f2. And now you know that he is not going to castle. He is just going to have played on the king side. Now it is time to immediately play the move h4. Knight has to move. Now you see that these two pieces are how pathetically placed. Although this knight is protecting this pawn, but it is very misplaced. This rook is stuck over here. So, Botvinnik took the advantage. Knight f8. Knight d2, trying to activate the knight, but now rook e7. The point of this rook e7 move is that an intermediate move to control the 7th rank, and when he will bring the bishop, he wants to double his rook over here. This was the concept. Now rook h1, now bishop f5, h3 by white, now rook a8. Now you see that how these simple moves by Botvinnik has changed all the position in black's favor. White now played the move knight f1, protecting this pawn on e3, but now knight e6. And this knight is coming to more active square over here. White tried desperately queen d6. Instead of over here, rook ad1. Because this rook was not developed, it was better to develop this rook and also control this important square. But instead, Petrosian played the move queen d2 and now knight c5. And now you see that just with these simple moves, how you can kick the opponent's knight to bad squares and develop your pieces in more fashionable manner. And in the long run, Botvinnik went on to win this game, and this position is completely winning for black. So we move to our fourth example. And this game was played between Bracket versus Elvest in Clermont-Ferrand 1989. And it is black's to move. I am going to flip the board for you people. It is black's to move. Elvest was playing from black. Do you remember the idea? This knight is being protected by this knight. You have two bishops, but you want this bishop to be controlled, come over here. But this square has been controlled with this knight. by this knight. And you are going to do two things with one stone. First, you are going to stop this knight to coming over here, going with your plan, the same plan. But in the game, he went out immediately with the move h5. Why? Because this knight can't take it. If this knight takes, this knight falls, and black is completely winning. So after h5, white played the move f3, but now h4. Knight has to move. Knight f1. Now, first, this bishop is very important. You can take this pawn. This pawn is actually hanging of white. If you look at this position, first you are going to take the defender of this pawn. Knight into bishop, queen into b2. Now rook into a3. By this doing intermediate maneuver, you have created a weak spot, a target for you, a weakness in white's position. And now this rook is hitting this weakness also. And this rook is being controlled, this queen. Rook a1 by white. Now rook into a1, rook into a1, bishop f5. Now you are threatening to take the knight. Black tried desperately counterplay rook a7, that if you are going to take my knight after pawn take, queen take, I'm going to pick up your pawn. So actually this is the critical position and it is black to move. I want you people to pause the video and think that what is better move for in this position for black. And the best pawn in this position for the black which he did was b6. The point is that the queen can't take this pawn. If you take it with bishop take, rook into queen, queen into queen, and white is better. And further, now these pawns are controlling these important squares. And this pawn is controlling the knight jump over here also. Although black bishop is in pin. But now queen a2, rook d8, h3 was played by white, now rook d7. Now black is protecting the bishop, rook a8 check, king h7, now queen c2. The point of this queen c2 move, queen c2 move is that if bishop takes, he is going to take with the queen. Rook d6, an intermediate move. This knight can't take because this queen would fall. Knight f2, bringing the knight and protecting this knight twice. But now rook g6. And now in this way, you understand that how black with just these simple concept of deviating this knight from its best square, he has created an attacking threats on the white king. And in the long run, Alvest went out to win the game. And okay, I'm going to go to our next example. This game was played between UFC versus Lokinov in St. Petersburg 1998, and it is white's to move. And white played the move here, knight g3, and that was a mistake. I'm going to flip the board for you people. Do you remember the concept? Yes. The point is that you are kick the knight away. You are going to place your knight over here, knight h5, then this bishop would be free. So h5, bishop a2, h4, knight has to move back. Now see, all these two knight and bishop are pathetic pieces. Knight h7. In this way, over here, black went out for the move knight h7. The point of this knight h7 move was that now it is controlling this square. That if ever white's bishop come over here. So, white tried the move bishop f2, threatening the pawn. But now knight e5. Now this knight is very beautifully centralized by black. Now knight to e3 and bishop h6, winning this knight. And here black's position is completely winning. The concept was simple. From over here, he played the move knight g3. He planned that he's going to kick out this knight, placed his knight over here or over here. His bishop would be free. And this knight can jump over here. So, the second last example, this game was played between uh, Atkins versus Capablanca in London 1922. And Capablanca was playing black. I flipped the board. Now, do you remember the idea? This knight. So what we are going to do? We are going to play the move b3, a5. But here Capablanca went out for the move a5 immediately, and that was a little bit mistake. Because over here, now white can play the move knight c5. If you play the move b6 over here, now knight a4. And by this maneuver, this knight can comes over here on c3. So remember that in your calculation, in your playing methods, that how you are going to continue. You are going to play the move first b6 or anything like g6 or g3 whatsoever, and then this moves. And then you are going to push forward this pawn to dislodge the knight, paralyze the knight. In the game, he went out for the move a5. Now rook ac1. Now b6. a4 by white, not allowing to play the move a4 by black. But you see that what have you gotten? By playing the move, white has played the move a4, but now you have this very important scare, b4. So it is time to control it. Capablanca played the move king d7. Now knight c3. It was time to play the move knight a7. It does not allow the white's knight coming over here on b5. So king f1 by white. Now knight ec6. King e2. Now rook c8 first, developing the pieces. This scare is not going anywhere. Bishop e1. Bishop e7, developing the pieces. Now these two rooks are being connected. Knight b1 by white, but now f5 by black. Saying that this side is very solid. Okay, I'm going to create another weakness on the... I'm going to play on the king side now, Capablanca. So white took bishop into f6, and now you see that this pawn is weak. And these two knights are misplaced, although this scare of white is very juicy. But these knights are very away. He played the move bishop c3, but now knight b4. And here, the problem is that if he takes the knight, his position gets more worse. So he went out for the move bishop d2, but I'm going to show you that what happens if bishop into knight. Now rook into c1 first, rook into c1. This rook can't come over here because these three squares are being properly covered. First, a into b4. Now where this knight is going to move? So knight d1 over here first, but now knight c6, hitting this pawn twice. And now this pawn is a target. You can bring your rook over here. So in the game, he went out for the move bishop d2, but now knight ac6. And in this version, you have seen that how Capablanca developed his position very beautifully. Everything is coordinated. But now you see that why this position is weak for black, because of this misplaced knight over here on b1. And this knight over here on b3. So try to avoid it. We have our last position from the book. And this game was played between Edward Brady versus Lasker in New York 1914. And it is fight to move. First, assess the position. You want does not want to disturb the center. Your bishop is stuck over here at present. You have a beautiful placed bishop over here. Now you see this knight over here. The problem is this knight is that it is controlling very important square over here. You want to dislodge your knight and you want to develop your bishop in this way, controlling this diagonal. The point is that where this knight, you have a target, where this knight is going to move. It can't move over here, it is bishop. It can't move over here, it is rook. It has only one square, which would be a8. Now you have assessed the position. So you go with your plan, and that is a4. You're going to play the move a5. Rook ed8 by black. Instead, the better try was to play the move a5. Sorry. If black tries, the better try was to play the move rook c7. The point was that if white plays now this a4, this knight can move, jump over here on c8. At least it may try to come over here or over here. Although black's position is very pathetic. And after rook ed8, instead of, if black tries personally to play the move a5, the problem is that now c5. Now after knight to a8, and black would be playing completely without this piece. And now the move is bishop c3, and you are going to pick up this pawn. So that's why after a4, black tried the move rook ed8, although it was wrong. Now a5, knight to a8, and now e5 first, controlling this square for your bishop. So queen has to move, queen g6, saying to exchange the queens, but why to exchange when you are in position up? So queen e8 2, now knight c7, trying to develop the knight, and where it can be developed? Over here, but it's not a good place. Bishop a3. Now you are controlling this whole diagonal, your bishop. Knight a6, but now rook fe1 first. The reason I thought behind this was that at some instance, actually, white wanted to play these moves. And he want to might be capture this. I want to play this move, bishop d3. Bishop e8 by black, now bishop d6. Now this bishop is controlling everything. And now you see that this knight can't go anywhere. f5 by black, but now f4. Queen h6, trying to create the counterplay, developing the bishop over here. But now bishop f3. Black has to create the counterplay, otherwise he is completely lost due to his very weak placement, dumb placement of his knight. So he plays the move g5, but now rook a2. The point of this, now it is controlling this square. If white plays the move f into g5, it is the best move actually, but he preferred the move rook a2. That was also okay. After queen into g5, now king f2. The point of this queen f2 is that if black tries the move f4, you play the move rook g1. If he tries the move bishop g6, but now you play the move bishop to g4. He must play the move bishop to f5, but now g into f4. And if queen gives the check over here, now you can bring the queen over here. And it was game over already. So he played the move rook a2. He took the pawn. Now g into f4. Rook d7, the only rook which can move and wants to bring over here to give the check. But now queen e3, protecting the pawn over here. Now rook g7 check. Rook g2, rook into g2 check. King into g2. Bishop h5, bishop into bishop. Now queen into h5. Now rook g1. king f7, avoiding the check. King h1. Now the rook is active, so black try to exchange it. After rook exchanges, king into g8. Now c into d5, white takes the pawn. Now c into d5, and now white plays the move b4. And now you see this that this knight would have no square to move to. Black plays the move king f7. After a lot of exchanges, you have seen that now this knight can't move. How this was stuck? By just this maneuvering. So white first tries to control the checkpoints of the black queen, queen h4, but now queen f1, queen d8 by black, but now queen h3 by white, king g8, queen g3 check, king f7, queen g5, asking for the exchange. Black says, no, I'm not going to give the exchange. Queen c8. Instead of it, he must have gone for it, but still his knight was a corner. And queen c8, b5, the knight can't go, and there will be a time where black would have no checks. Queen c1 check, king g2, queen d2 check, king h3, king e3 check, king h4, king e1 check, king h5, queen e2 check, king h6, queen into h2 check. Now king h5 check. Again, queen into queen have to be exchanged. King into h5. Now king g7 and b into a6, b into a6, and bishop c5. And after a couple of moves, black resigned the game. Lasker resigned the game. So from this video, you have understood the concept that when you find knight over here or over here, and it is controlling very crucial squares like these, where you want your pieces to be best placed, you can dislodge this knight by playing the moves like g3 h4 or b3 a4 a5 and h5. Remember this in your mind. So if you like my today's video, kindly hit the bell icon button, subscribe and like and share if possible. Thank you very much.